Almost every ordinary person at one time or another has had to take a stand and be seen in the minority. This is not a comfortable place to be, and you have to be really sure of what it is that you're doing in that situation. The temptation to just go along with the crowd is great, especially when the opposing point of view considers your position to be dangerous. Caleb, along with Joshua, found himself in this situation when the children of Israel came to the border of the land which God had promised to them. Caleb was able to stand sure in his position because he followed God with all of his heart. God gave very precise instructions to Moses for spying out the land of Canaan before entering into it. And surely it would make the people feel confident if they knew what the land and the people they would face were like. So one man from each of the 12 tribes was to go and to look over the promised land. Caleb was the one chosen from the tribe of Judah. The spies were sent to see what the land was like, whether the people were strong or weak, and whether they be few or many, if the land was good or bad, if the cities were fortified, if the land was fat or lean, and if there were trees. But they were also to get some fruit from the land. Well, the assignment seemed easy enough. And everything they would need to know to be successful in taking the promised land would be revealed to them on this mission. Well, the spies were in the land for 40 days, in which they looked at the things that God, through Moses, had instructed. They cut a huge cluster of grapes, so large that it had to be carried on a pole. They also collected pomegranates and figs. Everything that God had promised was there in abundance. The land surely flowed with milk and honey, just as God had said. And what a wonderful thing to see the bounty that God had laid out before them. Now Caleb carried out his assignment without a backward glance. His attitude to what God had said to do is revealed in Numbers 14 and verse 8, when he said, "If the Lord is pleased with us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey." His attitude toward God was that we must be pleasing to him if we are to expect his blessings. He quieted the people before Moses after the 10 spies had given their fearful and cowardly report. And respect for God and his instructions was primary in his attitude. Caleb and Joshua tore their clothing in frustration when the people grumbled and once again wanted to return to Egypt in fear and defeat. And he reminded the people that the land was good, as God had said, and that they should not have a rebellious attitude toward God. Caleb stood firm in his attitude, even though the people would have stoned him if the glory of the Lord had not appeared in the tent of meeting. Caleb had an obedient and trusting heart, and 3 times in Joshua 14, it stated that Caleb followed the Lord God fully. That means that there were no reservations or misgivings in his heart, only complete belief and trust. When the other spies made the hearts of the people melt with fear, Caleb followed him fully. Moses said Caleb would inherit the land because he fully followed God. Joshua repeated in Joshua 14 and verse 14 that Caleb inherited Hebron because he followed the Lord God of Israel fully. He had a heart full of trust in the Lord to add to his attitude of obedience. We see that God used Caleb to show what could have happened for all the children of Israel if they had been willing, as he was, to follow him fully with a heart that was trusting and not rebellious. Not only was he allowed to enter the land of promise, but he was also blessed with strength and vigor well into his old age, so that he could drive out the inhabitants as God intended for him to do. Caleb did not take the easy way out. He stood with Joshua alone when the other spies were afraid to go into the land, even when it appeared that they might be stoned for their courage. And when the land was finally theirs for the taking, Caleb did not take the valleys or the plains, but said, "Now then, give me this hill country, about which the Lord spoke on that day. For you heard on that day that Anakim were there, with great fortified cities. Perhaps the Lord will be with me, and I shall drive them out as the Lord has spoken." Joshua 14:12. Now, what might we accomplish as ordinary people if we have the heart of another ordinary man, Caleb? He didn't have to be the leader. That place belonged to Joshua. He only had to obey God with a confident and trusting heart. And his history shows us that we too can attain our promised land of heaven if we are willing to be used by our Father to do his will. The Apostle Paul knew this when he said in Philippians 4 and verse 13, "I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me." Friends, we thank you for joining us for our program today, and have a blessed day.